Hey everyone, and what's up guys. In this video I will going to talk about the vectors in our Unity. So first of all I will tell and explain what is a vectors in Unity engine, or actually what's a vector in C#, how can we implement vectors in C# and whatnot. So we are going for that in our first script, and vectors are some kind of controllers that control the vector position of a particular game object in the world space. So Unity used the vector tree class throughout to represent all 3D vectors. So the individual components of a 3D vector can be accessed through its x, y, and z axis or member variables. And now I will show you and explain how we can make one of the vectors, and later on, of course, as we always, test what we are created. So one of the important items is that we have three types of vectors. Therefore, these are vector2, vector3, and vector4. And I will explain only the first two types of vectors, that is vector2 and vector3, because you will just or only use these two types in your further game development. Vector4, I think you will never use that kind of vector, that is, at least I'm not. Yes. So now let's introduce the vectors in the codes. So first vector that I will represent is a vector2. Vector2, and we see that we can implement the vectors like a dot type. So when we now type here vector2, we must give the name of our vector, which is going to be position, and actually we don't need this equal sign because I'm not going to give the value of this variable. So first of all, what we did here, so we create a variable which is represented by vector2 and which has the name of position. And in order to I can explain what's a vector2 precisely, I will go here to the Unity engine and choose this game object. And we see that this game object has a transform and position, rotation, and the scale controllers on him. So vector2 is simply this position x-axis and position y-axis. So if we put, for example, for the x-axis position to 5 and for the y is 6, is going to be the vector2 of this game object is 5 and 6, and this is simply what represent our vector2. And you can imagine for the vector3, so vector3 actually include also the z-axis, so include x, y, and z. And if we put for the z3, for example, the vector3 of this game object will be 5, 6, and 3. And this is in short about the vectors. And in order to we can approve what we are talking here, I will put these three axes on the 0 first of all, and I will going back to our first script, and I will say here vector2 position is equal to, so this will be first of all new vector2, and in parentheses give the 5 and 6. So this must be in floats, and for that we are going to type here 5f and 6f. So in order to we can pass the value of vectors, we must first of all create a new vector2 and pass in floats which vector we want. So now we are give the value of this vector2 dot position. And if we go here, for example, in the start method and pass debug.log, and in debug.log pass the position which we are created right here. And if we try to save this and go back to Unity and run the game, and we see that our console prints the appropriate vector which we are provided here. So this is this vector position, and we give the value of this vector which is 5f and 6f, and of course this is 5 on the x and 6 on the y axis, and we see that our console prints these values right here in the console. So we prove what we are told here, and I think you learned something new in this video. More videos coming on, and see you guys in the next video.